is Art with Miss Andrea. I'm Andrea and I used to teach art for a local preschool that my children attended for about 4 years. And each week I would get about 75 kids ranging between 2.5 to 6 years old. And each week we would grasp different concepts and try different techniques and explore what I like to call guided process art. And I know a lot of you probably already know what process art is. It's basically where you take materials and let the child explore how they want to. So every single art piece is different. And what I like to incorporate was it be more guided. So I would give each child the same material, and I would give the same material to the youngest kids and the oldest kids. And sometimes I would give the older kids a little bit more, make it a little bit more complex for them. But for the most part, they had the same activity. And it was so awesome to see each week what each child would create. And so I thought, you know what, I'd love to share this with other people so that you could do this at home on a much smaller scale. And so this week, what we are going to do, just in time for Valentine's Day, is we are going to make these little hearts, and we're going to make this out of what's called bleeding tissue paper. And all you have to do is put the tissue paper on some cardstock, add a little bit of water, and this beautiful effect happens. And these make great Valentines for parents or grandparents or family or friends, anybody you'd like to give one to. You could even put your child's picture on here and laminate it and have it be a beautiful keepsake year after year. And each child, I like to put the year on it so that you can see from the time they started at 2 to the time they end at 6, each year, how much more they can do. And so please join me as we do this together. I will show you step by step, and then I will show you a little sneak peek of my kids doing the same project. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, please hit subscribe. And I hope to be able to do this more often to make this a series. So I hope you enjoy. All the materials to make a bleeding tissue paper heart. First, you're going to need a template. And this was just something I found online. I printed it out and then I cut it out, made my own heart out of cardstock so it was easier to make lots of copies with it. This will make, if you go from edge to edge, you should be able to get 2 on a piece of paper. So we'll try that later. You're going to need some cardstock, some thick white paper, the better, so then that way it holds the water more and it doesn't bleed or fades into your table. Next, you're going to need some bleeding art tissue. Now, you can use regular tissue paper, but you would have to add some vinegar to it, I believe, to make it have the bleeding effect. But this is really easy. All you have to do is add water. And I found this on Amazon. This has 20 colors in it, and there's actually quite a lot. We're just going to be using the reds and pinks today, so you'll have plenty left over. And when I did art class, I actually condensed it down to where I used all of the darker greens and browns to make a leaf for the fall time. I did the reds and pinks for Valentine's Day, and then I even took the blues and greens and made a really pretty like you could do a Monet painting with it. You can do lots of different things, or just a springtime flower would be pretty as well. So you'll have that. In order to make it happen on your paper, you're going to need some water and a paintbrush. Depending on who is doing the artwork is what size you want to use. The bigger flat paintbrush I liked because this was good for the littles, because they would get really bored really quickly, and they needed something to give a lot of water to start painting with. The smaller paintbrush just took way too much time. But for the older kids, they were better at really getting in there and getting the entire heart wet, and they had a good time. So I would give them smaller paintbrushes just so the time passed a little bit longer and it didn't take forever. You'll need a Sharpie just to do your outline, to cut it out. So you'll need some scissors And I like to, whenever I cut out the art tissue paper, I like to put it in a bowl because it would fly everywhere, because it is tissue paper, so it will get everywhere if you don't have somewhere to put it. And so the end result will be something like this. So once you put all of your tissue paper on your heart and start painting that water on, you leave it overnight with the tissue paper still on it, and then the next day you can peel back all the tissue and it will give this effect of this bleeding tissue, almost like a tie-dye look. It's really cool. I really like it. And I loved how every child had a different heart, even though they were all doing the same activity. So let's get started. So what you're going to do is make sure you have your paper towel, because the water will get on the edges and it will cause some bleeding to happen onto the paper towel as well. So if you wanted to save your table and whatnot, that's a great idea. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can definitely do one at a time, where you just, all you do is you take your little square, put it where you want. Here, I'll even put it in the middle so you can see it better. Take a little bit of water onto your paintbrush. And what I would tell the kids was, because they just wanted to start painting right away, and I would tell them to just kind of dab your square a little bit to start, and then start painting your square on there. That way it gives the water a chance to get out. And if you can see, you see how it's already starting to give you that watercolor effect. You can then take another one, start dabbing that square down, and then painting around it just like so. And I am going to start doing my artwork. Now you can also just pile them on top of each other like this, and then paint the whole thing, whatever your kid wants to do. This is a very, very self-directed art piece. So let's get started. I've pretty much got it all covered. The more you put on it, of course, the more it will saturate with that bleeding ink to create that watercolor effect. And you will get it on your fingers touching it, so it's okay. It'll wash off. Try not to get it on your clothes though, because it is a dye and it might stain a little bit. Make sure everybody's wearing things that you don't mind getting dirty. And the best tip I would say with the bleeding tissue paper is make sure that it is covered with a good amount of water. Now try not to oversaturate it. I had some kids in the past put so much water on it that it actually made a small hole or something like that. That's why we're using the cardstock to give it a little bit more a stronger base. But try to make sure all of the tissue paper is laying flat on your heart. You can even shake it a little bit, and if something comes off, that means there's not enough water on it. You can always go back, and once your child's done placing the squares that they want to put on there, you can go back in with a little bit of water and fill in those spots if you want to. But this will dry, and you will see the final result when it's done.